It's showtime.
Hey, welcome to Did You Watch Survivor Last Night? This is the only fun Survivor podcast. My name's Jay Shadell. Each week I ask my best friend Thomas Powell if he did indeed watch a certain reality show. And hey, Thomas, this week I'm in your... What room is this in your home?
I would call this a dining room. We are coming to you live from my dining room. Sitting here with a microphone that is probably not being used for the purpose it should be, but that's fine. Don't worry about it. We're professionals.
Every year since starting this podcast, I've asked my family for either a mixing board or microphone for Christmas. And no year have they ever gotten me such a thing. And it bothers me a lot. I'm sorry about the voice I just did.
What were you going for with that? I'm curious.
It was unintentional at the beginning, and then I just kind of went with it.
Yeah.
It was kind of just like a gravel in my throat.
Is this the type of guy you're
yeah.
going for your... it was Liam Neeson talking about microphones. Anyway, have you considered that your family don't support you?
Yeah.
You think about that?
It's clear. I know that at least one family member listens to this podcast weekly, and they said they would listen to this episode even though they didn't watch Zodiac and have never seen it.
They should see Zodiac. I think that's, if there's anything I can convey with this episode, it's that everyone should see Zodiac.
Yeah, like, obviously this is the best podcast in the world, and you should listen to the whole thing. But first, you should probably watch Zodiac.
Yeah, set aside nearly 3 hours of your day.
But I promise you, it will not feel like 3 hours.
It's a quick 2 hours and 40 minutes.
It feels like 2 hours and 10 minutes.
It only feels like a regularly slightly long movie.
Yeah. At no point is it droning on, but we're already getting into it. But Thomas, I do have to officially ask you, did you watch Zodiac last night?
There's a price to pay. Time for you to get down on your knees.
This is the Zodiac speaking.
Right.
Yes. Yes, I did.
Yes, of course. This week we watched Zodiac, the 2007 film, starring every actor who's ever lived. Is there a guy who's not in Zodiac?
Yeah, this really was like people just kept showing up in it. It was like a bunch of good character actors. I especially like Jimmy Simpson from It's Always Sunny is in it for one scene.
Mm-hmm.
June Raphael is in it as Mark Ruffalo's wife.
Yes. The whole time I was trying to remember her name. I was like, I recognize her.
Yeah, it's
but
like,
never bothered to look her up.
That's Paul Scheer's wife. Get away from Mark Ruffalo.
Oh, Paul Scheer was in The Family Switch. Did I tell you about that?
You did. We discussed that.
Oh, also, The Family Switch was one of the answers at movie trivia that my family
Really?
did. Yeah.
How did you guys do, by the way?
We started in next to last. The minimum points won in the first round was 4, and we had received 5 points. And that was the host being generous to our team.
Wow.
We finish tied for 6th.
All right. So, yeah.
Out of like 20 or so.
Slow start. You rallied. That's good. You knew about the family switch.
I knew about the family switch. Nobody else knew about the family switch, but I did. I said, oh, I love that Ed Helms and Jennifer Garner one where a baby and dog switch brains.
Just yelling at the host, like, did you know Paul Scheer's in that?
Hey, everybody, I just want you all to know a lot of people are in this movie like Paul Scheer. Remember him from Best Week Ever?
Yeah.
Speaking of things from the 2000s, this movie was released March 2nd, 2007. How old would you have been? March 2nd, 2007. How old would you have been March 2nd, 2007? I don't like that I can see your face.
That sounded like, to me, like I was having a stroke when you said it.
Felt like I was having a stroke.
Yeah, so what it was, you said it was March of 2007?
March 2nd, 2007.
Jake, I would have been 15 years old.
I would have been 15 years old, but as we all know, March is, of course, my birth month. So I would have been nearly 16 years old. Nearly old enough to drive a car.
Jake, had you heard of the Zodiac before this movie came out? Were you familiar with it?
Yeah.
March of 2007?
I was like a cool kid who knew about all the cool serial killers.
I'm
twisted like that.
Yeah, that's... Do you have tattoos of them? Like,
yeah.
I love anytime there's stories about, like, it's always white ladies, and they always have serial killer tattoos, but, they're just really into true crime. But, I was familiar, and the reason I was familiar is because I believe there was like a Dateline thing that I watched. It was long enough ago. I think I was like 10 or something, and there was like some sort of news thing that was basically like talking about the Zodiac in like a retrospective way, and it freaked me out.
Yeah, it's terrifying.
I was pretty scared of this. I was like, what if the Zodiac comes and gets me? Because it really was.
They never found him.
Yeah, exactly. It was like they never caught him, so I was like, maybe he's going to come for me now.
I've been to California.
Yeah.
Maybe
my grandparents live in San Diego. That's Southern California.
My grandparents could be the Zodiac.
There's not a lot of basements there.
I looked at the credits of this movie. There were at least 4 of them. This movie is perfect, I think. I don't know what else to say about it. Mark Ruffalo is perfect in this movie. Jake Gyllenhaal is perfect. I think what I really appreciated was how quickly it moves. Like, you get like one conversation. Thomas is making faces because the
dog farted.
The dog is napping nearby and farted, and it smells real bad.
It was a very peaceful. It was a very peaceful fart.
So sorry, the dog farted. Anyway, I really appreciate how the movie will give us like a scene from one day, and then it'll be like 3 days later. 4 days later,
7.5 years later.
Right. It's like, it's only the very important bits of this case and Jake Gyllenhaal's obsession with the case. And it's still such a long movie, but moves so quickly. How do you do that?
They do a good job of segmenting it where like Jake Gyllenhaal is the constant there. I'm trying to remember. It's what is that guy's name? I'm looking at the IMDb. Robert Graysmith is like the constant, because he's the one that never actually gives up on it, whereas everybody else eventually has to go back to their lives or succumbs to some sort of alcoholism. But they do a good job of like the first part of the movie. It's him and Robert Downey Jr. and then Paul kind of falls off it, and then they switch over to Mark Ruffalo, and the constants are always like the different. This was one thing because I remember they caught the Golden State Killer, which was a different famous serial killer in California. And one of the things that in some of the stuff that I read about,
they do appreciate being called famous.
Yeah,
it's what they're all going for.
But the thing that was stressed a lot with it is that a lot of the problems with it was that there was a bunch of different jurisdictions that it overlapped in California, and it wasn't as much of a problem in this, but it was the same kind of thing where there's just a bunch of sheriffs in like different areas. Like the crimes are all taking place in different little counties.
Yeah.
So they pop up. It's like Elias Codius, Donal Logue. I don't remember what this guy's name is, but he kind of looks like the exact midpoint between Michael Keaton and Jimmy Smits. He's a guy I've seen in other stuff before, but they show up routinely, which I think is kind of fun.
Yeah, I was gonna say one thing I really appreciate about this is like it's such a dark and intense story. It's so scary and so much about like public fear and everything, and it's still just so caught up in bureaucracy. Like,
yeah, that's the thing, right? Is that it's just the interest doesn't necessarily die down, but there's that scene where Mark Ruffalo is talking to him about it. It's like, do you know how much time has passed? Like, there's no way to solve this. Like, evidence, disappears. People get older, they forget, like that kind of stuff. So it really, and all of the evidence, as the movie does a good job of laying out, is circumstantial in favor of it. So there's not really anything to convict on. But the movie it goes from initially being about like who did it and the more granular details, and as it gets further and further and more time passes, it just becomes about like, what is it going to take for Robert Graysmith to give up on this? Like, what is it going to take for him to finally move on? As his wife, his ex-wife actually asks him at some point, like, what is it going to take? And he says that he needs to know who it is, and he needs to look him in the eyes.
Does he say it was him?
And know it was them. Yeah. And I think the movie does a good job of sort of gradually transitioning to being about sort of the pursuit of the unknowable and obsession. And I think that, man, I just like it more every time that I see it. I really do.
Same.
Like, because I feel like everybody has some things like that where it's like you keep turning something over in your head and you know that you're not going to get an answer for it. And I think most people eventually, like most people that are actually assigned to the case in the movie, move on because you have to if you want to keep living. But, you know, this is how people fall down conspiracy rabbit holes, is because there's something interesting about it that draws them to it, and you can never know for sure, and so you're just going to keep digging and digging forever and driving yourself insane.
Robert Graysmith was kind of the first true crime girly.
I was actually thinking about that during this. I was like, man, because he was going on the news and stuff. If TikTok had existed back then...
Can you imagine?
He would have been prying into people's family lives. He would have been harassing victims' families. It would have been great.
Was the person you were thinking of Dermot Mulroney?
No, Jake.
I don't know anybody's name.
I know who Dermot Mulroney is.
Is it Anthony Edwards?
No, it's not Anthony Edwards.
I did really love when Brian Cox showed up because I remembered seeing him in the opening credits. And I was like, I don't remember him being in this. And then he was playing that newsman. What a great scene with him. John Gates.
I'm looking through IMDb
John
right
Terry,
now. I will tell you when
Candy Clark.
I will tell you when I find him. It's Zach Grenier is the guy.
That's not a man. That's a drink.
But Jake, there was one. I think he only appeared in one scene in the movie, but there was one familiar face that was in this. Did you recognize him?
Are you talking about Lee Norris from Girl and Boy Meets World?
No, I was talking about. Let me find what the actual actor's name is. It is John Terry. He's in one scene.
Okay.
Yes. He's in the first scene where they get the letter at the San Francisco Chronicle, and I thought maybe it was him, but I couldn't tell for sure, so I looked it up. But it is Mr. Christian Shepherd of Jack's dad's fame on Lost.
That's why he looked familiar. I was like, who is this guy? Why does he look so familiar?
Well, you don't know who Christian Shepherd is.
That's
a real Lost fan over here.
I actually hated Christian Shepherd. I tried not to think about him as much as possible. I watched Lost.
Just like Jack Shepherd. Jack Shepherd also hates his dad.
All of Lost was about how we all should be more like Jack Shepherd.
Yeah, it's true. He's a cool guy.
With this being a movie about, like, obsession with the unknowable, I feel like a great double feature would be, I mean, this and any other movie, but this and Eyes Wide Shut. It's kind of about the same thing of just, like, a man obsessing over something that he doesn't need to involve himself with.
Yeah, you throw JFK in there as well. I think JFK, the tone of it is a little more self-assured, but the movie itself is very much just like, look at all these interesting threads. I don't know if they come together or not.
This movie is a lot funnier than I remember. Like,
it's very funny.
The scene of everybody claiming to be the Zodiac near the end, like 2/3 of the way through, is very funny.
One of my favorite things is when Mark Ruffalo's interviewing people, and one of them is like, did you ever consider that it was Robert Downey Jr.'s character? And he goes, frequently.
Yeah.
Because he hates him.
Yeah. God, Mark Ruffalo. Everybody does such a great job in this movie. What was happening that everybody just knocked it out of the park?
David Fincher. Well, one, it's a really well-written movie. David Fincher is a very good, meticulous director, and he does get good performances out of his actors. So, and honestly, they put together a group of really, really good actors, so that definitely didn't hurt. Philip Baker Hall's in that as the handwriting expert. Chloe Sevigny is in there with probably the best look that she's ever had in any movie.
That's an
big fan of
take.
70s turtleneck and tortoiseshell glasses. Chloe Sevigny.
Sure.
I would never have fumbled the bag there. I would never have. I would have given it up. This was a movie about how sometimes you have to fumble Chloe Sevigny in order to find closure, and I would have moved on.
Closure. What? Okay, what? Look, just go with me in this. Just a little mind game. What if you were married to Chloe Sevigny and adopted her two older boys?
I think those are his kids.
Right, in this situation, she has two kids that you've adopted. And you're Jake Gyllenhaal, and you're obsessed with something. What are you obsessed with so much that you're going to fumble this wonderful family life you have?
Probably my obsession with trying to get the Pistons front office fired. So be like, no, you have to stop looking at on-off data.
I would
stop looking up Troy Weaver's son's LinkedIn page so that you can yell about how he's a nepotism hire.
I would love to see that movie. It's such a specific. Like, that would be such a funny thing to come back with this next game after their first win in 3 months to just do like a parody of Zodiac, but about. Or I guess they would have to do it after Troy Weaver is fired because that would be kind of in bad taste. But whatever, it's still fun to think about.
I would definitely. Similar to the Zodiac, my swag would have been too different. I would have smoked too good, and the Pistons would kill me. So
yeah, God, great fun game last night. We really got the highs and the lows of Detroit sports all in single hour.
I don't want to talk about the Lions right now. I'm too mad. It's too raw.
I watched this movie and I realized I think Jake Gyllenhaal might be one of my favorite actors.
Yeah, no, he's awesome. He is an absolutely fantastic actor.
Like, anytime he shows up on screen, from The Day After Tomorrow to The Day Before Yesterday, that's just a little joke about movie titles. He's fantastic.
Is there a movie called The Day Before Yesterday?
Probably. It's the sequel to The Day After Tomorrow. It's the sequel prequel. You know how they like to do that?
Yeah.
There's probably not. But I did see there was a list of lost characters.
Danny Darko himself, the sequel to Donnie Darko.
Danny Darko, that was his dad. Daddy Darko. How would you rate Zodiac? 11 out of 10 stars. Thank you, IMDb. Richmond Arquette is somebody in this. Bob Stevenson.
Oh yeah, no.
John
This is
Lacey.
the thing that you're pointing out is. We're gonna name some guys that
we're just gonna name some guys.
No, the guys that you named were all. One of the things that I like about this movie is that any of the scenes where the Zodiac kills someone, they're all played by different actors. Mm-hmm. I think that's a great touch.
It really is, because if they don't do that, then you're like trying to figure out everybody's body type like a internet wrestling fan.
Yeah, nope, they're all different people.
I think everybody assumes, while watching this movie, that it was John Carroll Lynch's character, Arthur Lee Allen. Did you think that?
No, I think, well, the thing with the movie is not really about who actually did it. It's just about. We
need to get to the bottom of this story.
It's about Richard basically being certain enough about who did it to stop looking, because
Robert.
Rich.
It's basically like, who's Richard?
Basically the same name.
Yeah.
But Robert basically, having enough to publish his book and, being able to stop looking, because that's the other thing with it. The movie says at the end of it, basically, that he was still the only suspect, but it kind of perfectly fits that when they were going to bring him in, he died of a heart attack. Mm-hmm. And that also the DNA profile they were eventually able to assemble did not match him. So again, this is just something you're never going to get the answer to fully. You just got to decide on whether or not there was enough evidence there for you to say, maybe it was him, or just move on and decide you're never going to know. But yeah, that's one thing I kind of like about it is, the circumstantial case makes a lot of sense for Arthur Lee Allen, but you're never really going to know. So you got to decide whether that's good enough for you or not.
Yeah, and as an obsessive person named Jake, it wasn't. I want Zodiac 2. Diac. That could be the poster. It could be Zodiac, but the Z is a 2. That would be fun to watch. It could just be about the modern day take on Zodiac.
David Fincher made the wrong movie about a killer in 2023. Should have been going back to the Zodiac well.
Was that movie a sequel? Isn't there like two Radiohead albums where you like are supposed to listen to them track by track or whatever? Are you supposed to watch like the first half of The Killer?
It's like
and then watch Zodiac and then watch the last half of The Killer?
It's like that one Flaming Lips album where you need to play it out of 4 CD players at the same time.
I forgot about that one. I was thinking the other day about Beck's album that he released on sheet music only. Do you remember that? That was around this time too. Artists need to stop.
Yeah, artists must be stopped.
Art sucks.
Do less, Beck.
Did you know this movie's actually a Christmas movie?
How so?
There's a scene during Christmas.
I mean, that's all it takes to qualify. So yeah, I feel well. Then this fits the Crizmiz spirit as well.
People are like, "Oh, why are you watching Crizmiz?" Zodiac, one. Zodiac.
Also, honestly, with Robert, he had
Richard.
He had a lot of haters.
He did,
and then they were starting to like him by the end.
That's true.
So he had haters wanted.
That's exactly.
Also, his biggest hater died of a heart attack, so he also needed new haters after that. I did like at the end of it that
Daniel Bryan died of a heart attack.
No, Arthur Lee Allen did, but he was.
But the Miz.
I'm talking about Robert's biggest hater. I said he died by the end of the movie.
Yeah, but who is the Miz's biggest hater? I thought that's what you were saying.
No, I was saying Robert Graysmith. The Miz's biggest hater is probably JBL.
Not dead yet.
No, or maybe CM Punk.
Welcome back, right? Welcome back to the wrestling world.
Yeah.
I forgot what we were talking about before this. The Miz, right. The Miz, Zodiac.
You were talking about how it's a Christmas movie.
Oh, it's a Christmas movie, yes. A Crizmiz movie. Zodiac. And that's why we watched it at Christmas.
Yep.
That's it. That's all I was saying. Like, I don't take as many notes during watching of movies because I want to watch the movie. And you can take from that I don't want to watch Survivor. But we watched Zodiac. What did you think of Zodiac taking his name from watches?
I thought it was a little weak. I thought,
You know what it reminded me of?
Come up with an original idea, Zodiac.
Yeah.
Why are you just using your watch for that, huh?
Well, another piece of content from this era was a little show called Heroes, in which there was a bad guy called Siler.
Oh, and he got his name off the watch.
He got his name off of a watch, and it was even more lame than this scene. And I was like, oh, did they take that from Zodiac? Was that a real thing?
It's crazy how big Heroes was for exactly one season, and then I think everyone bailed on it within a couple episodes when it came back.
Yep.
Don't people blame the writer's strike for that? They're like, oh, it would have been so good, but the writer's strike ruined it.
Yeah,
and that's why you can't have another one.
Yeah, exactly. I think they rebooted it a few years ago, though.
Who needs that? Come on.
NBC, apparently. They should have rebooted it when they did Peacock. And I would be like, oh, yes, finally, Heroes is back. I missed that show.
Yeah, Hayden Panettiere, back on television.
Hayden Panettiere.
That's me.
Excuse me.
Not when I'm watching Remember the Titans, though, which she's also in. Great movie.
That's right. Did you ever watch Dirty Harry? Because I watched it in this movie.
Did they? Is that actually Dirty Harry in that?
It is. I looked it up.
It said SFPD on the movie theater billboard, so I thought maybe it was a fake movie that they had made for it.
No, that's legit what Dirty Harry is.
It makes sense that it's Dirty Harry. It's been a while. Dirty Harry is one of those movies that I think I watched different parts of on AMC many times, but I don't know that I've ever sat down and watched the whole thing. Sounds
like we got to watch Dirty Harry in a future.
I guess it does make sense that it's based off the Zodiac a little bit because he does try to kill some kids off a school bus at the end of it. So.
Yeah. We already talked about how good Jake Gyllenhaal was, but the way he got his kids involved in the case, and his just like anxious energy while running around the kitchen trying to solve this case, man. He did a really good job. Like, I was feeling anxious just watching the scene. I love how busted his house gets by the time that it's just him there. Yeah. When he's fully allowed to lapse into his obsession, and it's just like, just a total mess. I also appreciated how he started so clean cut, and by the end he looked so disheveled. But it was at no point was there like a drastic change. It just like slowly got to him. Also, honestly, better look. Yeah. He looked better by the end of the movie. True. My grandma came over for Christmas yesterday and said she liked my haircut. She said she didn't like the man bun. I said, okay, thanks, Grandma. And then later she said, oh, I noticed you're missing some hair on the back of your head. And I said, oh, thanks, Grandma. She said, I wouldn't have noticed, but I saw you outside running around. Said, yep, thank you. So, you love grandmas. Thanks for rubbing that one in. Anyway, I put my hat back on, feeling insecure about it. One thing I really appreciated, because I am a person who appreciates filmmaking, did you ever notice how every scene with Jake Gyllenhaal and Chloe Sevigny after they get married is punctuated by a very stark line through the center of the screen?
Oh, so it's representative of the Zodiac coming between them.
Exactly.
It is funny that their whole relationship is defined by it right down to their first date.
Yeah. Yeah, true. Well, because his whole life was.
Yeah.
Like, this movie even is based on books he himself wrote. It's a good movie.
Soundtrack, really good. It seems like we're getting into the wrap-up phase of it.
Sure.
What's your favorite scene in the movie, out of curiosity?
Ooh. I do think the scene where they first interview Arthur Lee Allen is so good. Who's the actor again?
It's John Carroll Lynch, I think is what the guy's name is.
That sounds right.
He's been in a million different things too. That guy's he plays Frances McDormand's husband in Fargo. He's been in a bunch of different stuff.
He was great. Apparently, David Fincher told him, because they do a million different takes. Told him to do one sounding more innocent and one sounding more guilty, and apparently with everyone that he sounded more innocent, it just made him more suspicious.
The point where he crosses his legs during that interview is when it starts to shift and he starts saying a bunch of shit unprompted that's extremely incriminating, and I was like, this is good. That scene is fantastic.
How soon... Oh, what was your favorite scene in the movie?
I think the first time I saw it, it was the scene where he checks out the lead with the movie theater guy when he goes down into the basement. Like, that whole sequence where he goes down into the basement when you don't know what's going to happen is
when they're walking through that tight little tunnel.
Yeah, there are many basements in what does he say? It's like, not many people have basements in Southern California.
Yes,
he goes, I do, but that's also there's a.
Oh yeah, that's when he goes, "That's my handwriting."
It ends a little differently, but it kind of reminds me of in Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, the whole sequence in that where he's basically like, you knew it was me, but you just, because of basic ingrained politeness, you couldn't help but stick around. And that's kind of what it felt like, where it's like, don't go down in that basement, man. There's nothing good that can come of this. And then he just books it out of there.
Yeah.
But I think my favorite one, watching it again this time, is just the opening sequence of the movie, I think, is my favorite. The setup, I think it's shot super well. The tension's really good. And then just I think the use of Hurdy-Gurdy Man is my favorite use of any song in a movie ever. It's perfect.
You did say last week after we stopped recording that you wanted to start this episode singing Hurdy-Gurdy Man, and then you did not do that.
We couldn't really do it with this setup. I think it would have had to have been recording like we normally do.
Why?
Because I think the mic doesn't really work for it.
Okay, fine.
I don't want people watching me. I think it would have to be within the comfort of my own home. I'm still pissed that they don't have that for karaoke at my karaoke place. I definitely would have done it by now.
Yeah, maybe we can go back to that karaoke place where we didn't get to do karaoke.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Alice's You're on Notice. Okay, let's do wildlife shots. There was but one animal.
It was the squirrels.
It was the squirrels, and it was unsettling.
Oh, that was the most bitch you live like this trailer of all time. I love that scene too, of them just going through his fucked up trailer that he lives in.
Yeah, horrifying. Yeah, because it's just every scene, you think you found something, and then it ends up being inconsequential. It's just it's so infuriating. You understand why Jake Gyllenhaal
they got
gets
him, and then there's
it.
nothing there. Yeah, there's always just, it feels like there's there's one thing coming that's going to break it wide open, and it just never quite happens. But the trailer kind of reminded you. Have you seen Mandy?
Yeah, I didn't love it.
Oh, I love Mandy, but
I thought it was beautiful, but there was just too much in it that I did not.
It's a fucked up movie, I think, in a good way. But the scene where they go to the motorcycle riders' super fucked up house is one of my favorite things in that, because it's disgusting, but it also demystifies them a little bit, because they're they seem like these immortal evil beings, and then they just live in a fucked up house that has a bunch of Chinese food takeout containers on the counter.
So they have squirrels in this trailer. They have long, slender bodies, big, bushy tails, and large eyes. Are squirrels a specific species Or is it an entire family of rodents?
I'm going to say family of rodents.
You would be correct. Where can they be found?
Every college campus.
That's correct. They are indigenous to North America, Eurasia, and Africa, and have been introduced to Australia by humans. We took them to Australia. You guys gotta see these dudes.
You're stuck with them now. Look at them.
There are two terms for a group of squirrels. Do you know either of them?
I don't.
Either a scurry or a dray. D-R-A-Y.
Yeah, you learn something new every day.
I mean, that's why we do wildlife shots. How big are they? Remember, there's hundreds of species.
Yeah, I feel like the low end, probably like 5-6 inches. High end, like a foot.
They range in size from about 4 inches to over 4 feet long.
Where are these 4 feet long squirrels?
There's a flying squirrel in Bhutan, apparently, that is 4 feet long and a couple inches.
It's just like a flying 8-year-old.
Yeah, basically. What can tree squirrels do that no other mammal can do? Think about squirrels and where they live and what they do. Specifically about tree squirrels.
What can tree squirrels do? Live in trees. That's not true. I know there are big cats that do. I don't know. You tell me.
They are able to descend a tree head first.
Wow, okay.
Apparently that's not common. They're able to do this because they can rotate their hind legs 180 degrees.
I guess that's true. You never see, anytime you see anything climbing down a tree, it's always like a person would, where you're just, going down backwards.
What do they eat?
They love eating nuts, let me tell you.
Seeds and nuts, sometimes also insects and small vertebrates.
But they love birdseed. They love getting in there.
They love
ruining it for all the birds.
The birds should eat. After squirrels were nearly eradicated during the Industrial Revolution in New York, why were they introduced?
There was a surplus of birdseed that they needed them to take. There were too many damn acorns.
It's a very specific reason. They were to entertain and remind humans of nature.
Oh, because I guess they can exist in like an urban environment. So it's like, there's animals here. Who says we don't have animals?
Have they or have they not been trained to sniff out drugs in China?
I'm going to say yes, because you wouldn't make that up.
Yeah. And where do they rank on the IUCN Red List?
Least concern.
Of course. That's specifically for the North American gray squirrel or whatever. I wasn't going to look into every squirrel. I'm just going to assume they're all the same. Thomas, I'm going to ask you a series of questions now in a segment called Whoops Quiz.
So nasty that it's probably somewhat of a travesty having me. Then he told the people you can call me your majesty.
Do you live in Northern California in the late 1960s and early 1970s?
I'm afraid I don't.
Excuse me, did you?
I did not. I was not alive.
The answers are yes, no, or who can say.
Who can say?
There we go. Next question. Choose a t-shirt. And all of these t-shirts say it's a blank thing you wouldn't understand. So we've got, it's an anime thing. It's a BDSM thing. It's a Kyler thing. It's a sex therapist thing. It's a Zodiac thing. It's a chicken thing. It's a hentai thing. It's a minion thing. And it's not even a minion on
this
that shirt.
This is a leading question. There are a bunch of shirts that I would never want to put my name to that they're putting up here.
Thing.
I'm going to say it's a chicken thing.
There we go. Okay, next question.
Can you imagine if your sex therapist was walking around wearing It's a Sex Therapist thing you wouldn't understand shirt?
Imagine wearing that shirt and going to a sex therapist for your appointment. What is your favorite mode of communication? Telephone calls, texting, Twitter DMs, riddles and ciphers, email, Facebook updates, sign language, speaking face-to-face, or cryptic, menacing letters?
You know it says Twitter DMs.
Yeah. Why hasn't there been there probably has been a Twitter serial killer. The Craigslist killer, remember him?
I do remember the Craigslist killer.
Why hasn't David Fincher made a movie about him? Choose some food to stockpile just in case. Freeze-dried vegetables, 160 serving bucket. Powdered egg product, 144 serving bucket. Long-term milk alternative, an 120 serving bucket. Rice and freeze-dried meat bucket, 104 servings. Meat supply, 240 serving, 4 buckets of such. Dehydrated spinach flakes, 45 servings. 30-day emergency preparedness and survival gluten-free food supply, 90 servings. Defender pack with meat, 200 meal bucket. Or Annie's shells and white cheddar pack, 12 pack.
You know I gotta have my Annie's mac and cheese.
Do you want all this fucking weird prepper shit or some nice mac and cheese?
Delicious mac and cheese.
Have you ever killed another human being?
Who can say?
Who can say? Choose a suit.
Killed them with kindness.
Tie-dye morph suit, ghillie suit, wanna see my nuts costume. Okay. Because of the squirrels. Beekeeper suit, genie in the lamp costume, hazmat suit.
Beekeeper suit.
All right. And do you enjoy getting away with horrible crimes?
Who can say?
Who can say? Are you the infamous Zodiac killer? It says yes, and then there's a picture of Ted Cruz.
It's not true. I didn't do it.
I don't believe you. It says right here.
Yeah.
And you know BuzzFeed quizzes are always right.
Not a lot of houses in Michigan have basements. But you know what? Mine does.
That's right. We walked by said basement many times this weekend while walking the dog in our childhood neighborhood. Thomas, what's your blue sky?
You can follow me at tom.tom.bsky.social. I'm on there. I don't post very often because I am still mostly posting on Twitter, but you can follow me on there if you want.
Thomas loves Elon. You should see the DMs.
My Twitter account is that one Tesla that had the sticker of like, we bought this before we knew it was bad.
Yeah.
Like, look, I've been there since 2009 and they're not fucking running me off. I don't care who buys it.
Blue Sky has updated their logo though. It's now a butterfly, not just a blue sky.
I don't love it. It's better than what they had, but I think it's too similar to Twitter.
It's fine. It's better. It's an improvement, so I'm not going to complain about it. We're also on YouTube at the Only Fun Survivor podcast. We forgot to check in with our comments last week, but we got a couple more comments in some of our videos. One in which we disparaged the audience for thirsting over D from Survivor Feety-Five. Someone said, really? This girl's like a 6 out of 10 at best.
Okay, that's... I wasn't trying to say anything mean about Dee's appearance. She's an attractive lady.
Somebody else replied to that person, here legs are a 10. Can't lie.
I'm just imagining it's the Survivor producer and they typed out feet and then deleted feet because they were like, people are gonna think I'm too thirsty about the feet. Let's put legs. It's got gams for days.
Yet another person wrote, maybe for New Era Survivor, but super plain for OG Survivor, and even more of a wallflower in Miami. What are you talking about?
This is apparently the way for us to get engagement is to just have people argue about whether or not Dee's a Miami 10.
Someone else said...
No! I'm so done with these people. Thank you for listening.
Somebody said on episode 419, nice show.
Yeah, finally, some positivity.
Again, wonderful comment. Thanks for the comment. Not quite what we asked for, but close enough. And then somebody else said, the only fun Survivor podcast, there's nothing fun about making the same tired complaints that every so-called Survivor fan makes constantly. Enough with the negativity.
Is that Jeff Probst? So Jeff, thank you for listening.
So I replied, good point. We'll only be positive from now on. Thanks for this.
We said so many nice things about Zodiac.
Zodiac's
this is what you wanted,
movie,
right?
you guys. Imagine if Jeff Probst was in Zodiac, though.
Would have been so good.
He would have been alive. Baby Jeff Probst in Zodiac in the background of one scene. Were there any kids? There were kids in that movie.
Yeah.
It was a big
I'm just
deal,
imagining
actually.
him in the Brian Cox role as like the local TV guy.
You know, I never want to deny Brian Cox a role because he's a great actor, but that would be a great cameo. Instead of being on that call-in show, he calls into the Jeff Probst daytime talk show.
We're doing This Is Why You Suck right now. I don't have time to talk about your headaches.
What can people comment on YouTube other than what they already have? Nobody's listening to us.
Yeah, this is fucked up. Ha ha ha, very funny smiley face.
A lot of people are listening to us, but nobody's listening to us, you know? I feel like the Zodiac. Our last poll on YouTube asked, do you call it Survivor 45 or Survivor Feety-Five? And guess what?
I'm going to say Feety-Five won.
Keep the Feety-Five, drop the one. It tied 50-50.
Wow.
Yeah. So what's a new poll we can give people to tide them over until Survivor China next week?
Is Jeff Probst the Zodiac? Yes. No.
Who can say?
Yeah, or who can say?
We have a few shows on Patreon. Pistons won again, third time in their entire lives.
So yeah, Teal Time, you can subscribe to that. Also, if you would like to hear me talk about the Detroit Pistons and their losing, you can listen to the most recent episode of Roundball Rock, a podcast I appeared on to talk about that with my friends Joey and Sean. It's a fun listen, and but mostly just listen to this.
Would you say it's the only fun basketball podcast?
Well, until people pay for Teal Time, yes, I would say that.
You can go to patreon.com/justpodcasts for the prices on Teal Time. Do you want to thank the fans?
I would love to thank the listeners. Thank you so much for listening.
And on Apple Reviews, we can review the podcast there. What should people write there?
This is my favorite podcast. I like it better than all the other podcasts. I give it a big thumbs up. 5 stars only, please.
I was going to say, we got to remind people how many stars, because somebody recently gave us fewer than that, and I don't appreciate
the
that.
1-star review that we got that they did a loophole on?
Yeah, they did do a loophole on it. So even if you're not, okay, we should say, even if you're not leaving a 5-star review, you should still leave a 5-star rating.
Yeah, 5-star rating also.
Yeah,
please.
we never specified that. Okay, well, somebody else did rate us 5 stars again, so that's nice.
Getting that average, 4.7, we're getting that average back up.
We're getting back up. Now it's 4.7 still. I don't know math, but if you want to hear us do more math, you can subscribe to Just Arithmetic. It's also on patreon.com/justpodcasts. And as we say, as we always say every week on our true crime podcast, stay sexy.
And don't get murdered by the Zodiac.
There we go. Great show. Oh, yeah, next week we're doing Survivor China. Did we say that? Episodes 1 and 2.
Oh, no, that's good to know, though.
Yeah. Are you excited to talk about the second good movie we've ever watched for this show?
This is like, it really is. I think this is maybe like the 3rd or 4th time that I've seen this movie, and I'm like, this is one of my favorite movies.
It's so good.
Genuinely one of the best movies I've seen.
I don't know what brought us to this conclusion that we should do this movie.
Wasn't it all the astrology jokes? Was all the Zodiac stuff?
It must be, I think, because like nothing else makes sense.
Yeah. No, that I was going through just because they kept it, the soundtrack for that is like fucking
incredible,
banger after banger, and so I was going through the tune find for it, and there's some very wrong entries that got put on there. They said "It's Going Down" by Young Jock is on the soundtrack for Zodiac. That's not true. They said what was I think they had "Milkshake" by Kellis on there too.
Are they thinking of a different movie?
Yeah, they had the right stuff. I'm wondering if maybe there's some automation in the process to it, and maybe those songs had samples from some of the songs that were included, because that's the only thing I can think of.
That would make sense. Or it was just all done by AI.
Yeah.
AI could do that job.
Because, like, I know that Low Down by Boz Scaggs was in that, but a computer might not.
Yeah, computers know nothing about it.
Yeah, because I have that on vinyl. I have
Look at this guy.
Silk Degrees is the name of the album. I bought it for like $4 on Discogs.
How long do you think after buying a record player did you become a vinyl guy?
Like the second.
Yeah.
Because I love collecting music.
I'm pretty sure that's what I said.
Survivor China. Remember 2017? That was like the coolest,
funniest joke we can do.
Parents kept saying it like that.
China 1 and 2. Yep.
China.
That's so funny. Remember how funny he was? We just still make jokes about him all the time.
He's so funny. I just didn't say it was. Some stuff in that was funny.
What were you saying?
I didn't say anything. He's a good poster, okay? Doesn't mean I agree with anything else about his life. But
Thomas can separate the art from the artist.
Yeah, the Diet Coke feature. Smarten up, Probst.